So last week's episode of Watch Diary, I put up one of Film Beef's reviews. It was a Furious 7, and again, what a great time capsule it was. Did you listen to that by chance?
I listened to most of it. I didn't finish the full thing, no. I'm bad at homework.
That's all right. Well, if you remember, you were higher on it than I was, even though I was a fan of it. I still like it.
Yeah.
But you were definitely smirking as you are right now, and I think you gave it a medium well. And I was laughing my ass off because I probably just gave it like a medium or something, but
yeah,
you were loving it. So one thing that I haven't done since you and I have been apart, I have not kept up with this franchise, but you have, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I've seen every movie in the franchise at least once, almost all of them more than once. Outside of Hobbs and Shaw, I have not seen that.
Really?
And I've only seen F9 once, but I've seen all the other ones at least twice.
Okay. Hobbs and Shaw is the only one I have seen since we watched Furious 7, actually. Isn't that weird?
So you missed out on Fate of the Furious and F9?
Yeah. I have. And overall, I'm still also missing Tokyo Drift. And I actually saw Fast 6 or whatever it's called, Fast and Furious 6. I saw it at your house. I just have no recollection of it whatsoever. I really don't.
Aside from the airstrip, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we watched it together. I just don't recall anything about it other than that. So I've kind of been out on this whole thing, and I was not really excited until the whole like Phil Wilson podcast thing came into play. Then I was like, all right, now I'm game to watch Fast X. Where was your head going into this as somebody who has seen Fate and Fast 9?
Well, I'll just tell you, when I saw F9, the Fast Saga, or whatever it's called, I went with, I think, somewhere in the ballpark of 10 to 15 other people. Some of them had been drinking. We went out to dinner first.
Wow.
And then we went and saw F9. And as a running gag, we kind of cheered every time there was like a location title card and tried to keep count of it, which is an outrageous number of locations. But I had a wonderful time watching the movie in theaters, knowing full well that it was an awful movie. And if I'd watched it at home, I would have been just so checked out and wanting it to be over. With Fast X, I only got to see it with two friends, so it was a lot more low key. But I will say, and we'll get into it in a second, I did laugh a lot.
Hell yeah!
So I had a pretty decent time watching it, and when it ended, I left, and I was like, I really hope I remember any of that for the podcast.
Yeah, I sat there laughing my ass off. I don't think anybody else was enjoying it the same way I was, and having a sense of humor about it is what I mean. I don't know if they enjoyed it or not. The only impression I got from the audience was actually happening during the trailers, and it was probably the hardest I laughed during the entire thing. So there was this guy. He had to have been with another person a couple of rows behind me, like in the very back row, and a trailer would play. So like, I don't know, I saw it at Cinemark, so I don't know if we had the same trailers, but like a trailer would play. I think the new Oppenheimer trailer is 3 minutes at least. So 3 minutes of Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, and then boom, the title appears, Oppenheimer. And then you'd hear the guy in the back go, "What was that movie?" And I would lose my shit, because not only did 3 minutes of like, hey, obviously this is what movie this trailer is for, and then the title card, and then you'd hear this guy, "What was that movie?" And I started I started cracking up. And then like it would happen again with like The Flash. So something that's obviously Warner Brothers, DC, The Flash, 3 minutes, title card. What was that movie?
That's a good bit.
I'm like,
that's a really good bit. Yeah.
It was either a bit or he was blind and he hired somebody sitting beside him to just talk about He's only going by sounds. What was that movie? Oh my god, I was losing my mind.
I'm glad you mentioned trailers because I can't tell you how funny it was to me that the last trailer before the movie kicked off was Oppenheimer, because it was like the most serious movie it could possibly be.
Yeah.
Then it kicks into that awful Regal commercial, followed by Fast X, like the Universal thing, and I'm just like, they really didn't ease me into it. They were just whiplash with hyper serious Oppenheimer.
That's right.
Yeah, and then that Regal commercial should be banned. But anywho,
to begin our discussion, I want to let you and the audience know that since viewing Fast X, I've rewatched what I believed to be my 2 favorite and 2 best films in the franchise. So,
okay,
Fast 5. Which is probably the most important film to rewatch because the obvious connective tissue to Fast X, and also the original, The Fast and Furious. So you and I saw Fast 5 together, I believe. It was pre-podcast though. But if you remember, or maybe you don't feel this way, but I remember sitting in there during Fast 5 and thinking then, wow, we're really embracing the bombast that is the Fast franchise now. And when I rewatched it the other night, I was thinking to myself, why did I ever think this was like out of its mind crazy? Because it's really just the safe run at the end that was, and of course, like the train heist at the beginning, they dive over the cliff, but like that kind of stuff, I guess looking back on it, you could see in a lot of action movies, and it's not like it's, oh, the Fast and Furious is at it again. And so to go back and think back in that mindset, like I thought this was crazy at the time, and I realized it's actually extremely tame. And I've never felt like the Fast and the Furious original and Fast 5 were such like, I felt that they were one. Like I was like, I get why this is the same franchise. Like they had the call back to if you remember the character Jesse. Oh, I'm sorry, not Jesse. Sure. Jesse's the one with the Jetta who died. Vince. Vince was the other. Yes, yeah. So Vince, he was also in Fast 5, connected tissue to the original. And so those 2 movies pair really well together, which is absurd because it's kind of like 1, 5, and Fast X. You could take all the other movies out. You could take all the other movies out, and it would be like a trilogy, really. I mean, the only thing that you wouldn't really have accounting for is like who is John Cena, you know, like who's the kid, like, but
fair,
but you could go 1, 5, 10, the way that you could do Guardians 1, 2, 3. Like
that's pretty wild. I didn't even, I didn't think about that, but I mean it's true.
Yeah,
and truthfully, thinking back on it, I don't remember thinking the movies were really ridiculous until 6, and it's because of the airplane thing at the end. And even then, it's not like Vin Diesel like causing an earthquake on a parking center with his foot. Yeah. It's not that absurd. Because I mean, it's always been kind of what it is. It's always, cars and crime and whatever. It didn't really truly get absurd until they started breaking physics like super hard and involving secret, black ops government things, and doing like globe-trotting espionage, when they started out like stealing DVD players out of semi trucks.
Yep.
Which I mean, their plan there is stupid, but it is kind of wild to think about, because I mean, some of those movies have been kind of like, you don't really need to watch them, and even I guess 4 was kind of like a soft reboot to the series in general, where you could kind of not pay attention to the first 3. Yeah, it's kind of wild how they keep resetting it, and I guess that kind of tracks with how they have no set naming convention for any of these, and how people just come and go. Death doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's really absurd where it's at now. And I think we'll get to it, but there's the obvious like, let's transition this into, let's go on past like the Expendables or something like that, and let's go straight towards being an MCU movie. And that's, I mean, you were accurate about thinking that this movie wanted to be an Avengers movie really bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's and I will say too. I think the franchise, especially now, feels like a 11-year-old boy's idea of cool. And I think it's always been that way, but now it's like 2023 11-year-old boy think something's cool with superheroes. Yeah, it's weird.
I think the thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, I mean, 2022 was an incredible year for blockbusters. Like, I've had the take for a while that Marvel has made other movies better. Because, I mean, we got Dune, and it went straight into what we saw with the Batman and Top Gun Maverick. And, I mean, some of our favorite movies last year were huge franchise films. And it was just like other studios came to play because of Marvel. So the fact that this is like the first big blockbuster of the year, other than Shazam, John Wick 4,
Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
Yeah. It was the first like non-franchise. John Wick 4 was another great one that I've really been let down on. And all this to say, the Fast franchise, I wasn't serious about it. I didn't take it seriously.
Sure.
But honestly, part of me just, I had fun with it in the moment, but also just doesn't need to think about this again. I don't watch this movie anticipating the next two that we're supposed to be getting. There's just, I have nothing to hold on to. It was just a funny movie to watch for a podcast at the end of the day, which is crazy because we do have these histories with this franchise. I remember getting the first two on DVD, and I watched them all the time. And Fast Five, I think, is one of the best action movies made in my lifetime, let alone one of the best one of the best Fast movies. And so to just kind of be here and to watch where it's gone, but also have this like distorted or like, I don't know, disappointed feel because of like where we are with movies. And it's like, I don't know. It's almost like I just have no tolerance for it anymore.
Yeah, I get that. And, I'm thinking about it here. Really, 1 through 5 are rewatchable to a crazy extent. Even Tokyo Drift, like it's not great, but it's not bad, and it's one of those movies that you could just throw on at any time. And I feel that like nostalgia for the first two movies, especially 6 through 10, I guess 11 if you count Hobbs and Shaw. I just like you're right. There's no reason to really revisit them. They're fun in the moment. They would not be fun on a rewatch because I feel like you'd start to feel their length quite a bit. And really, after 5, I mean, seven's really solid. Don't get me wrong. Comparatively, I should clarify. But like, there's not those moments or those quotes that you want to see again, or like, I don't know, like the race at the end of the first one. Like there's not that. Somewhere along the line they lost that, and I think part of that is the removal of any stakes. Like characters don't stay dead. They just come back for plot convenience sake. It doesn't really make sense. They're all kind of superheroes and like excel at hand-to-hand combat for some reason, and they're all tech geniuses, and like
it's like what happened with Die Hard.
Weird.
I mean, it's just following the same pattern with the Die Hard movies. And and I'm not breaking any ground here. I know this. I'm sure millions of other people have already come to this conclusion, but I'm saying this as somebody who was out on the franchise and now revisiting all these thoughts and feelings. It really does come down to Paul Walker's death. It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I was never a big Paul Walker fan, and the fact that I was just like a fan of the movies, I watched Fast Five and like missed him in my life for the first time. Like,
Yeah.
like I was like, man, he really was this franchise. And also my stock on Vin Diesel, he's kind of like the shepherd of this franchise now, and he oversees a lot of stuff creatively, and I don't know how I feel about him as a person. There's always a lot of bullshit surrounding that dude. Have you seen how he like holds people hostage on Instagram? Like,
no. What do you mean?
like, well, John Cena just started talking about this on the Happy Sad Confused podcast, but when he met with Vin Diesel to appear in F9, they were just sitting there talking about life, and then Vin Diesel opens his Instagram on John Cena's like, welcome to the newest addition to the franchise, and John Cena doesn't say a word in the video because he doesn't even like know what Vin Diesel's doing. And it reminded me of Vin Diesel did the exact same thing when there were rumors that there were issues with the production of Fast X when Justin Lin was directing. He took a selfie with Justin Lin like, hey, we're back at it, happier than ever. Justin Lin was out a week later. And Justin Lin's just like at the camera like, get this fucking camera off me. Like, Vin Diesel's weird. All of his bullshit with The Rock in the past, all of his bullshit with Tyrese in the past, or was it Tyrese and The Rock? But there's always like some crazy weird shit going on around those guys.
Have you ever seen, there's an interview he did with a female reporter, and it's just super uncomfortable, like how forward he is with her. It's an older interview. I'm not sure how old, but it's just like, he's just gross. Which is funny because like you can tell, or at least I got the impression that either A, he has major input on what comes out of Dom Toretto's mouth, or B, the writers are afraid to make Dom Toretto look bad in any way. So he says all this like pseudo philosophical crap, like the quote like, if Rome falls, the world falls. Like, what do you mean by that? Okay.
Is that Shakespeare? It's got to be Shakespeare or something. I just assumed that was a quote.
I don't know.
I assumed that's a quote that's existed for hundreds of years that should have never come out of Vin Diesel's mouth.
And I tell you what's super bizarre, too, is every female character he speaks with, they just like are enraptured with him, I feel like, immediately. And it's just like, did Vin Diesel put you guys up to writing it this way?
Vin Diesel's actually good, by the way, in the first Fast and Furious. Like,
oh yeah, I know. He is.
He really is. All right, so let's go a little bit further into this. So when it comes to Louis Leterrier, he is, again, and I kind of referenced this earlier, he's kind of just like a studio director to me. Like, he's just the guy that a studio trusts to shepherd a movie but has no distinct style. I mean, I think the most notable movie that he's directed that matters to me and you is Incredible Hulk, but the Now You See Me movies, and I think he's done a couple of other things that don't spring to mind just because he's such a, I don't know, faceless director, if you will. So it didn't mean anything to me, bad or good, that he was directing because you can't see him in it anyway. The only thing that irritated the shit out of me, and I'm so glad you recognize this. Again, guys, we're in the non-spoiler portion still. I'm glad you recognize this too. That dude was terrified to hold a shot longer than 2 seconds.
I don't get it. It makes it so jarring. Like,
yes.
Why? Why?
The worst scene to watch was the barbecue, because like Rita Moreno would have a line and it would cut to all 10 characters at the table, and there were no wide shots, no establishing shots. It was just like, hey, let's make sure we include every single face in this scene, and it was jarring. and that carried into the scene where Dom is in his garage. A very odd scene to me. But
the piano medley.
Yeah, and I'm a big Charlie Puth head, so I appreciate the callback to the song. But I remember that being just a wonderful instance of Vin Diesel not being able to carry any sort of character or emotion in the scene, because I remember him. It was like he was in a Fast and Furious museum. Is what
it really was. It was just screen caps from the other movies. That's all it was.
And again, because I hadn't seen these movies in a while, I kind of forgot the story about Dom's like dad and stuff. So when Rita Moreno comes in and she's like, "You would have made your father proud" or whatever, a part of me was just like, "Oh, I guess this scene was about his dad the whole time." I forgot about like what the car represents to him and stuff like that. So I just thought that scene was hilarious, even though it's not really, because I was just like, "Oh, this is a scene about how he feels about his dad." And obviously you watch the entire movie and it's supposed to be about fatherhood, I guess. So, but anyway, those scenes were just a headache to get through.
Like I truly don't understand. The senior, like the end of that scene, he's looking in at his son sleeping, and then he like turns and talks to his mom, and there's got to be like at least 15 cuts in like that amount of seconds. Like it's just crazy. Like it's just cut to pieces for no reason at all, and like nothing's even happening.
Right.
And like even before that, in the very first scene of the movie, which is I guess just like establishing Dante Reyes, the I guess the bad guy from Fast Five. I'm blanking on his first name, but Reyes.
Hernan, I think his name was Hernan.
Sure. Yeah, and there's some scenes where like he's facing away from the camera talking to Jason Momoa's character, and like his mouth is moving, but it's not matching the audio you're hearing. And like from the jump, I was like, oh, this looks kind of not polished. So like from the first few minutes, I was already like watching for these things, which I'm not that hypercritical of a movie critic. Not that I'm a movie critic, you know what I mean? But if you have things like that, like background things that if you do them right, I don't notice, and if you do them wrong, I still may not notice, and I notice right away. You messed up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I don't know how I'd feel about it now, but I think at the time we were pretty proud of Furious 7 and how they were able to incorporate Paul Walker's brothers. I remember Eric, I don't know if you remember, me and him used to argue about what was and what wasn't a fake Paul Walker shot. And there's proof on the internet, Eric. I was right the entire time. It's not Paul Walker at the end of Furious 7. It is a deep fake. You can look it up. But anyway, but it was convincing nonetheless. And they did a good job. So things like that, a little disappointing. You're absolutely right about that. And those are the things that, like, I was kind of excited to see how they were going to work. But that's one thing that I think overall the Fast franchise has not done well at all, is justifying keeping characters around as long as they do, or adding to the menagerie of characters.
Agreed.
You have to really justify what you're doing, and as I understand it, it was a big reach to like bring in John Cena's character, and maybe this isn't the first time this has happened, so to go as far as to say, oh, this thing from Fast 5, because wasn't it literally just Fate or Fast 9 where they bring another character back from the dead? Or am I just thinking of John Cena? There was a character that was like apparently this entire time was
John Cena, I think,
embedded in the history. Okay, so it just already felt cheap and recycled to the franchise, and I just don't think that worked. I mean, how do you feel about Momoa's justifying his presence? Well, we could also just talk about his character now if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know how good of a decision it is, especially because even in the flashback that they show, like Brian, Paul Walker's character, is instrumental in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's Dom that the car maneuvers, I guess, is what ultimately like kills Hernan Reyes in Fast Five, but um, it's the whole crew, right? And the whole idea is he's going to go and punish all of them and whatever and get back at them. So if you're keeping Paul Walker around, like off screen, basically, that's an immediate issue, because that's like his best friend and the guy that's married to his sister and his, nephews or nieces or whatever. Like,
Which that's another thing too. If Paul Walker, obviously, there's only so much you can do, and I'm not going to crucify this movie for anything related to that character. But you also don't have to ask the audience to believe any more than they are. Like Jordana Brewster, I'm sorry, I have nothing against you. I liked you in the first movie quite a bit, but her husband is in hiding with their kid, right? Don't they have a kid?
Yep.
She's pregnant. So why is she in this movie? Because that just begs the question.
I have no idea.
Like, I'm sorry. Not only were you not instrumental, did anything to the plot, but the fact that we see her, it's like, aren't you supposed to be with Brian? And so it's kind of like, come on, man. Like, that's an easy decision. Leave Jordana Brewster out of it. Even though I wish she could be there way more than I, need Brie Larson or anything. But
yeah, no, I mean, like, I'm just saying from like a story, like idea from the jump, like at the base level, like if I'm not ever going to pretend to be a screenwriter, but if I can identify like an immediate problem before we even think about anything else other than bad guy from Fast Five's, secret son, revenge, it's an issue. Like, why not just like either cook up some new bad guy or do it from post Furious 7, you know what I mean? Like, so from the jump, I'm having trouble buying into the character because there's already that like, well, I feel like he would be doing XYZ, but he can't because, they can't do anything with Brian O'Connor.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess from there I was having a hard time. And then like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of praise for his performance and everything, but at times I was just like, I don't care. And then other times I was like, yeah, that's kind of funny. But I was never like, God, he's incredible. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't. And it's like he's in a different movie too.
Yeah.
Like everyone else is melodramatic or in a sitcom like Tyrese and Ludacris, but he's just playing the Joker, I guess. I don't know.
It's almost like you would think that he like spent 6 months preparing for this role. When you watch the interview he does where he's like, they kind of talked to me about what they wanted me to do, and I decided, he should have a feminine look, and I wanted him draped in purple and blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm like, bro, you just stumbled upon the Joker. You know who he is? He is Jared Leto's Joker. That's who he is. Is Jared Leto's Joker, and that's why I think I don't approve. Like,
yeah,
it was entertaining. It was entertaining, because I guess I enjoyed watching him more than I did half of the other characters. I mean,
that's entirely fair. Yeah,
I definitely wanted a Momoa scene more than I wanted a Ludacris and Tyrese scene. I mean,
right? Yeah. Because those scenes were supposed to be, I guess we can kind of get into it here. They were supposed to be, comic relief essentially for the more serious parts of the movie, and I put that in quotes because how serious can you be when your villains calling people buttholes? You know what I mean? Like, yes. Which again, he feels like he's in an entirely different movie than Vin Diesel.
Yeah, and here's the problem. You're right. Those scenes are written as comic relief, but those are actually the least funny scenes.
Absolutely. I groaned.
Yeah, this is Fast and Furious, where the movie's already silly. And so how do you write comic relief for the Fast and Furious movies? So, and again, this comes down to the formula, and one of the reasons why I compared it to Infinity War. Obviously, it takes its characters and separates them, and is trying to give all of them a purpose while separate from each other, and it doesn't quite work because Tyrese stuff. Look, we enjoy Tyrese and Ludacris, I think, to a point with these movies, and we know to not take them seriously. But and I had it here too. I think it's hilarious every time somebody insults Tyrese, because at this point it's like, what is this, the 100th to 150th time that we've seen it happen? But for some reason it doesn't get old, just because we're like, I don't know, it's a reliable thing when visiting this franchise. And I love more than anything how like sincerely affected Tyrese's character is at elementary insults. Like it literally was like, I think the comment was something along the lines of, your head is too big for that hat or something. And he literally looked like he needed 15 minutes in a corner to cry. And I was laughing my ass off. I love it so much. But then like Pete Davidson's there, and it's just like, what are these scenes? Go away.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, like something like Infinity War, like you jumped around to these little pockets of characters, but they were all doing something interesting. Like I can't think of, it's been a bit since I've watched the movie start to finish, but I don't remember being like, oh, this is a whatever scene with these characters and I'm checked out. Like it didn't happen in that movie.
Right. It doesn't.
And it didn't happen in Endgame either. But here, like anytime it went to Tyrese and Ludacris, I was just like, God, this is not good. Later in the movie, when like Letty and some other characters are kind of siloed off, I'm just like, I don't care about this either.
Yeah.
But the catch is, I don't really care about any of it. and that's the biggest problem, really. Because, obviously anything Vin Diesel says, I'm kind of chuckling at because it's ridiculous. The scenes with Momoa, like I said, they range from amusing to I'm tired of him. But he was at least interesting in the fact that he was like really going for it. And there's several actors in this movie that like just felt like they were phoning it in. Brie Larson.
I loved how Jason Momoa always had like a vantage point wherever he was. Like he would organize this elaborate plan, and then he must have just picked out, oh, and this is where I get to stand. When the whole Rome sequence is happening, think about how many characters are doing different things in the city of Rome. And wherever Jason Momoa was, he saw every bit of it happening at once. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're going like 90 for like 20 minutes.
It doesn't matter.
You can still see it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how tall the buildings are. The fact that there could be a 9-story building, and his eyesight away, he could see the ground below, like blocks down. Wherever he was, he saw all of it happening, and it was incredible. And even the setup at the end, I thought it was, I won't spoil anything, but where they are at the end, the fact that he also had another a perch to observe from was great.
That's so funny. Like I didn't think about it until I saw it in your notes, and I started laughing like out loud when I read it. It's true though.
It really is.
He's always just perched up somewhere with his arms like this.
That's right. He really is.
Yeah. Just cause.
And honestly, by the way, the biggest continuity error, Michelle Rodriguez's hair length was different every single scene. She had a very short bob at the beginning barbecue, and then she had long hair. Michelle Rodriguez, I like her a lot.
Yeah.
But like the stuff that she's in, there's only like so much you can say about anything that she does, but I like her. I'll just say that. I like Michelle Rodriguez. I'm just now deciding that in 2023. But
yeah, she's not bad in this movie, really. She's not given a lot, but she's fine with what she gets.
Yeah, and you kind of hinted at Brie Larson. So let's talk about the fact that, first of all, I don't know what it accomplishes when every movie in this franchise just hires an actor and says that they're another character's son, daughter, brother, sister. And like, again, the family, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, it's almost like we're not, I just don't understand why I'm supposed to care about Brie Larson's character. Because they also,
I don't know.
because we don't connect with the original person in the first place, let alone now you're asking us to buy into this. And again, we don't have to take it that seriously. If I enjoyed Brie Larson more, I think I would be a little bit more forgiving. But the fact that she is terrible in this film.
She had a real weird energy, and was like in her face, she was like really intense in the scenes she was in, and truthfully, like, I guess it would veer into spoiler territory to talk about who her character is, but
I don't think it is, because it doesn't matter. Like, who cares?
Fair. She essentially plays the same role as like Scott Eastwood's character.
Yeah,
like just another Mr. Nobody, which is also kind of what Ames kind of is too. So I don't understand why we have to have like three, children, put that in quotes, of Mr. Nobody that all kind of play the same role. Like, why?
Well, Ames wasn't literally Kurt Russell's son, but yeah. But I mean, again, John Cena, we have to buy into him being Dom's brother. It's like, oh, by the way, I thought of you during those scenes because I thought John Cena was awesome in this movie, not having seen Fast 9 and not forgiving the fact that he never should be in this franchise in the first place. But I thought he was insanely watchable. Unfortunately, he was in all the kids stuff, which I figured you didn't take too kindly to.
Out of all the things in this movie to be upset about, shockingly, Little B was not one that I was like, I mean, he was just there. He never veered into the like annoying kid, because honestly, he didn't say much.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
And yeah, I agree. There's two. I would say there's probably two things I really enjoyed about this movie in a legitimate way, and one is the like side mission with John Cena and Little B. Even though it starts with Mia being there for no reason, I thought the little house scene, when John Cena shows up, is great. I think them going on their little trip is great. The little moments in the car, like all that was. It was good.
That was the house scene was like one of the ones I was most involved in. There's a moment where I'm pretty sure he picks up one of the guys renting the house, and before he even did it, I just thought to myself, he's going through the floor. I know he's going through the floor, and he slams that dude and breaks through the floor, falls, and I was losing my mind. I was like actually having fun with that scene.
I really like how he basically did like a wrestler toss out of the ring move with Mia.
Absolutely.
Also, I had a blast during that scene.
But to go back to Brie Larson, so I think the guys on the Big Picture podcast brought this up, but her acting style in blockbuster cinema, this movie in particular though, is she just grows her eyes very big. It's just.
That's part of the like the really intense look that I was talking about, where she's almost strained.
Yeah, she does it in that's the look she has in the Miss Marvel post-credit scene. That is now seen in when she appears in Kamala's room and she's just looking around and her eyes get really big. It's like her only move in these, and she's just genuinely bad. And I don't know how we got here with Brie Larson. Another big movie that she's wonderful in is 21 Jump Street. And she has not found an in-between with the drama and comedy. And you know what's crazy? Alan Richardson, who plays Ames, that dude, he played Hawk in Titans. and I've only seen 2 episodes of Titans, but he was in the second one, and I was surprised by him in that show, but still never gave him much more credit beyond like a Stephen Amell type, right?
Sure.
But he's obviously Reacher right now, which I haven't seen. Have you watched Reacher?
I have not.
I have not. I've heard great things though. But Alan Richardson, who has no business outshined Brie Larson in this movie. And
He really did. Yeah.
not only did I think he was legitimately good, but he really is just like a Stephen Amell for the movies. Like, he's the same kind of guy, but he's got what it takes to be doing this, and he beat out Brie Larson, and I can't believe it.
Yeah, I actually had not seen that guy in anything, and I just kind of assumed he was a pro wrestler just based on his like physique and how he looks, because he's kind of got like almost like a Triple H type look to him.
He's a CW actor. I mean, he played Aquaman in Smallville, I believe.
Yeah, and like he was legitimately solid in the movie. I liked his presence every scene he was in, and towards the end of the movie where it was that super strange shot of like him like looking at the camera all cool with an explosion behind him, like that. I think you'll like, you know, an aircraft crashes into something, and it's like it shows him, and he's just kind of like looking smoky at the camera. It's like I loved how cheesy that was. Like I was there for that. He was great. And I feel like he maybe got a little bit more to do than Brie Larson in the movie. I would say he did. She really didn't have a lot to work with, but she also didn't leave an impression in this, which is weird because she is legitimately great in other things. Like Room, she's phenomenal. 21 Jump Street, like you said, she's phenomenal. I think, I don't know. I think she's just not she doesn't give me the vibe that she should be like a leading lady or in these blockbusters, and focus more on smaller movies where she can really shine, because she can obviously do Oscar level work when she's in the right setting. But here she's just kind of lost in the shuffle, and one of those people that I'll probably kind of forget is in the movie like 2 years from now.
Yeah. So, there's something about Brie Larson where she could have been, she kind of filed in after Jennifer Lawrence, and kind of could have been the next J-Law, and whether it be Captain Marvel, whatever it's been, it's kind of like Florence Pugh just came in and was like, nope, this is mine, and just took off with it. And now it's like, I don't know what Brie Larson is doing right now. She needs to figure something else out, but I don't think it's these types of films, because I just don't understand it. And I'm a fan of hers. It's not like I'm one of like the haters that, I just think she's not good in these movies, and I want her to do other things other than this.
Yeah, that's all it's coming from, for me, is like, I know for sure she can do better. So like her being in this movie, you would think she would leave more of an impression, kind of like some of the other characters that like kind of just show up and exit the movie abruptly. I don't want to get into spoilers potentially. Not sure that it matters again, but some characters just show up, say hi basically, and then exit the movie, and they're more memorable here, and they're worse actors than Brie Larson. So I don't know.
I don't know. I guess it gives me a greater appreciation for actors that do one thing really well. So the fact that I'm just like, take the time to acknowledge Alan Richardson in this movie, and we're shitting on Brie Larson, it's like, well, I mean, he's a reliable guy in this type of movie, but it's like not like I'm there's other actresses in this movie like Helen Mirren that it's like, why are we doing this to Helen Mirren, by the way? back to back Fury of the Gods and Fast X. What else? Anything else stick out to you before we kind of get more spoiler territory, more ending vibes, ending territory?
Yeah. I guess like. Well, I guess this would touch on like post credits a little bit, but um, at this point, just in general, we've both seen what's apparently the first of a ending trilogy to this series. Are you anticipating part two? And if so, what aspects of it are drawing you to it?
You want to go on into spoilers now?
Sure. Yeah, we could do that first.
All right, let's go on and go into spoilers, guys. Not that it matters, but just to take care of that. So
stick around, you'll be fine.
So let's talk about post credits ending, all that good stuff. Sure. It's almost like, I guess I'm intrigued as to how they incorporate the actors that they sort of promised. So would I appreciate seeing Gal Gadot do something interesting in a Fast movie? Yeah. I would rather see Gal Gadot in Fast X2 or Fast 11, whatever it is, before I care about what Brie Larson's doing in the next movie. Same, I actually want to see Michelle Rodriguez get to do more in Fast 11. I guess it has my curiosity, but at the end of the day, I don't like this movie, and it's not a good movie. So it's almost like I'm already thinking about the podcast we'll record about it. But that's kind of it. That's kind of it. Same with The Rock. Like my stock in The Rock. That's another thing. Stock in The Rock. That's another thing that
Stock Rock. Yeah.
That's another thing that has fallen from grace since you and I recorded Film Beef. I mean, I legitimately think The Rock is trash. And
this circles back to Black Adam. He is, if the Justice League of America was not in that movie, and it was just him fighting that villain, it would have been atrocious, like legitimately awful. Because while he's not the worst actor in the movie, it's a tie between him and the small child for the worst character in the movie. And he's the titular character. So,
well,
do that what you will. Yeah.
The fact that The Rock just fell on his face with Black Adam. The fact that it's sad that he had to come back to the Fast franchise. Because
I agree.
There were rumors that he was going to go to Marvel and switch teams. Apparently, that's not happening. I mean, he's kind of the guy that just says shit on social media now, and I just roll my eyes. I think I saw something about him the other day talking about a Marvel DC crossover, and it's like, dude, you don't even have any skin in the game anymore. Why are you talking about this? It might have been an old clip. To be fair, it might have been an old clip when Black Adam was relevant, but I remember just so much has happened since then. And I think over time, he's just kind of proven that he's not it. His movies don't matter at all to pop culture. He can't get anything off the ground. Jumanji is probably the most successful thing he's done. There's a Jungle Cruise 2 coming for some reason. But other than that, his best movie is still The Rundown. Still. And that was his second movie. But technically his first real The Rock movie. His first movie was Mummy Returns, Scorpion King. But anyway, The Rundown was the first The Rock movie, and it's still his best. He hasn't beat it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how I feel about him. It's one of those things where at one point in time, I enjoyed him enough where I probably would have went out and saw whatever The Rock movie was coming out, aside from the comedies with Kevin Hart. I'm out on that. I don't care about that at all. I think it sucks a lot that he got the rug ripped out from under him in regards to Black Adam, because like he spent, God, what, a decade or more
It's
trying to get it made.
15 years.
Yeah. Finally gets it made, and then there's just huge like DCEU news, and it just undercuts it incredibly hard. And I understand
this is a completely different podcast, but
yeah,
he had 15 years to write a better script, and the script was awful. The story was terrible, and there's no excuse for it. But also the fact that I think the audiences spoke. I think the audience just straight up just told him, like, no, this ain't it. And so anyway,
yeah.
But
fair.
The fact that so much has happened with Cena and Batista, where I'm kind of just looking around like these other guys are lapping you. They make much more interesting choices than you. Other directors have started using them as their muse. I mean, right. John Cena and James Gunn is a great partnership. Denis Villeneuve, for Christ's sake, taking advantage of Batista. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Right.
The Rock doesn't have... What is it? Rawson Marshall Thurber, who directed Red Notice? Who cares about that guy?
Sure. Yeah.
He directed Skyscraper as well. Again, talk about reliable studio directors. It's like, it's meaningless.
I think the big difference is The Rock is too big of a like personality or ego or both to really like blend into something, whereas like John Cena can show up and be a side character and kind of steal the movie away when he's on screen like this, or like the Suicide Squad to an extent, or like, you know, Batista as Drax, or Batista in that small role he had in Blade Runner 2049 that really sticks with you. Those guys are making the effort to like act, and The Rock's being The Rock in whatever he's doing. So yeah,
and don't forget Batista in Dune and Dune 2. I mean,
true, yeah. He's killing it. He's great in Knock at the Cabin. Yeah. I don't know. When he showed up in the after credits, I was just like, okay. That was my reaction to it.
Here's what we stumbled upon. So before we sat down, you and I and even the audience anticipated we were going to talk about this franchise that is so ridiculous. Maybe we're taking it too serious. Maybe not having as much fun as we should be. But here's what we've stumbled upon. Not only are we dealing with the worst versions of these characters, but these movies latch on and try to justify bringing in new actors, new characters, and we're not at any of these actors' peaks.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, it's not exciting to bring Brie Larson back. It's not exciting to bring The Rock back.
It would be if you were, if everyone was bought in on it, I think, or the director was good enough to get like a good performance out of all of them. But it's not there. Like, some people seem to care. John Cena, Jason Momoa, obviously Vin Diesel cares. Michelle Rodriguez.
I don't
cares.
think Vin Diesel cares.
I mean, like,
he does. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Charlize Theron cares, but then you bring in like Brie Larson and I don't know, Jason Statham and the guy that plays Han, and it's just like and Ludacris, just like hardly any energy. They're just there. They're just playing that same character, like, look, it's that guy.
Right.
But you're not excited for the eventual team up that's going to happen in part 3 or whatever. Like, how are you going to feel when, I don't know, Tyrese and Letty and Dom are driving together? Do you care? I don't.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing. If you're going to make a trilogy out of this, like, the first movie really needs to like cement that like this is a big threat that requires all this effort, and they need to combine forces. You don't get that sense from this. The second movie, you kind of need to move pieces around, show he's an even bigger threat. And the third movie, you got to have everybody come together and it be exciting and fun and whatever. And I just don't see it happening that way. Like I'm not even convinced there will be 3 of these.
I don't know. The box
in
office.
all honesty.
I mean, the box office it's doing fine, but it still
Sure.
is disappointing when you compare it to the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
While I look this up, I think the last point I'm going to make is that they talked about, or Vin Diesel's talking about getting spinoffs off the ground. I would legitimately be interested in like the all-female version if we had like the Gal Gadot, Michelle Rodriguez, and we got to give Natalie Emmanuel more to do. But if it was like a fun action movie with those guys that was more Fast Five-esque and not Hobbs and Shaw-esque, I would be into that. But
you could venture into a side plot with the whole Brazil side. With the sister of whatever that character's name is, because that might be interesting. You never know. Which I forgot to mention real quick. I mentioned two aspects of this movie I really enjoyed. While it's very stupid, the scene is the vintage like cars, girls, loud music montage in the Rio scene, before the street race.
Yeah,
loved it. I'm here for that.
I thought it was a terrible scene, but I understand why you feel that way.
Yeah, I was like, this is some vintage Fast and Furious, and
yes,
I love that they included it. Doesn't make sense in the movie. Bad scene in general. The race lasts like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just, but for a minute there with the montage and the music, like, I was like, yeah.
That's the one time we want the Fast and Furious to, suspend disbelief. Yes, a quarter-mile race takes literally 3 seconds, but the Fast and the Furious somehow stretches it out to 10 minutes. That's when we want. That's when we want this franchise to take liberties to, build some suspense. But it didn't happen.
Yeah, do some bad visual effects with like the NOS going in and the fire shooting out. Give us some of that.
That's right.
And play Gasolina the entire time.
Yeah. Just to let everybody know, we're all a barbecue and beer away from corruption. The biggest what the fuck moment was seeing the drummer of 21 Pilots make a cameo. Are you familiar with this gentleman and what scene he was in?
I know what scene it was. I didn't realize that it was anyone of any importance.
Yeah, if anybody missed what was going on, it's when John Cena and Little B arrive at the airport, and John Cena accidentally bumps into someone with, what was he carrying? The kayak or whatever it was? Or whatever it was. That was the
space age craft.
Right.
I didn't plug in my laptop. Keep talking.
But anyway, when John Cena is walking through the airport lobby with the spacecraft, he bumps into the drummer for 21 Pilots for some reason, which I don't even think they made a song for the movie or anything, or maybe that guy's just a fan of the franchise. Who knows? I'm sure I could look that up on the internet, but I care very little about it.
Yeah, I don't care at all. And I didn't realize who that was, so yeah, I guess.
So I'm surprised at how serious we were during this review.
Yeah, what are we doing? Let's take it from the top.
Well, it's like we had so much fun. We had so much fun with the Furious 7 review, but is it because we're cynical? Have our tastes really changed that much since we did this last? Like, what's the deal? Is it us or is it them?
It's the kids. Sorry, my laptop's legitimately about to die.
That's all right. Last question: is it us or them?
We're professional. I think the franchise has just kind of lost some of that fun. Truthfully, I don't know. Like, even when the stakes were. The stakes have been gone for a while in the franchise, truthfully. Yeah. I would still go in expecting to have a good time, see some like ridiculous action set pieces, some physics defying things. And now when those things happen, I just like, and like kind of giggle, but it's not, there's nothing that really sticks with you. Like it looks bad.
Yes.
It's silly. The big action set pieces in this movie, like, they didn't really hit. Like
that's like another
John
thing. Watching Fast 5 on my computer monitor, you can just tell it doesn't look digital at all the way that this does. And I guess maybe we don't have to talk about it, but I mean, literally the cliffhanger ending, it just doesn't work at all. Like
I literally said, "Wait, what?" when the credits started.
The way they built to that just doesn't work at all. And
no,
I knew going into the movie that there was going to be, a sequel to this, and it still doesn't work. I mean, my God.
Yeah, I mean, you're dead on. It was trying to be Infinity War with the snap, essentially, but with a bunch of water about to hit Vin Diesel and his son.
I would not be surprised if that was a last minute decision, because it was Vin Diesel on the red carpet talking about how the studio asked. Now, I don't know when the studio asked to make it 3 movies, but I would bet that they filmed more that was supposed to be a part of Fast X, and they decided to do that last minute. I would,
right, which cheapens the whole thing. Like, why do you need to go back and watch this? You don't.
Correct. So anyway, in honor of the Fast and Furious franchise, or in honor of this film and the eventual trilogy, this podcast is officially split into 2 parts. I'm going to publish it in 2 parts. And I think that's all we got here. So I would like for you to please rate on the film beef scale for me what Fast X is.
This is teetering on the edge of being rare, I think, but it is medium rare.
That's correct.
And the reason for that is I laughed at the melodrama. I laughed at some of the goofy things that happen. I at least had a decent time watching it, even if it's 2.5 hours I'll never get back, and that I just truthfully don't care about. I still had fun. So are you there too?
Yep, that's exactly right. So it's possibly the most entertaining, terrible movie I've watched. It is the second worst movie that I've seen this year so far. And
same. Yep.
And I miss Top Gun Maverick. And I'm already thinking about everything else to come this summer. I'm already done with this. Are you seeing The Little Mermaid?
If my wife wants to. I don't know. I'm not for the live action Disney for the most part.
Me neither. But Halle Bailey did.
Okay, fair. I mean, I like her and her sister's music.
She's great.
Yeah, but the live action Aladdin was okay. Live action Lion King was abysmal. So I don't know. I'm rooting for it though, because it's kind of it's already been counted out, I think, in some areas of the internet. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to see it do really well, but am I excited? No. I mean, I'm not even like a super fan of the animated one. I know it's good, but I'm just like, I can take it or leave it,
I am super excited to see Halle Bailey.
Fair.
And I think that Disney remakes are terrible. I think this movie looks horrible. And I'm only seeing it for her and to have a take on it. And that is it. And I'm not excited at all about being a single adult male sitting by myself at this movie Thursday afternoon. But we're going to do it. Because fuck them.
Let's do it. Yeah, get them. Give that money to Disney.
That's right. I will.
Yeah.
This is a podcast that we did in 2023, and it was incredible stuff, as always.
Yeah, I am shocked that it was hyper serious, but I loved it. I was here for it. It was a good discussion, and
it was
good
also
to be back talking with you.
It was also us. Like, it was super us. I'm just surprised that we didn't have more fun with it. So I don't know if it's because we're in our 30s now or what the hell is going on, but maybe again the wind's out of our sails and we just want everything to be Top Gun Maverick, but it cannot be. On to, I've got tickets for Rise of the Beasts. I got my tickets for The Flash today. I got my Indiana Jones tickets today.
Spider-Verse?
I got my Spider-Verse tickets. I pretty much have all of June down.
Okay.
Rise of the Beast, Spider-Verse, Indiana Jones, The Flash. Yeah, I just need to get my Little Mermaid tickets, which I'm literally seeing in like 2 days. But yeah, so a lot of good stuff coming this summer. Phil, I've got your handle on the screen. You can't see it, but do you want to tell people to find you places or no?
Yeah, if you want to look for me on Letterboxd, I keep up with that. My name on there is Film B Phil still.
Wow.
So yeah, check me out on there. Honestly, I'm not really active on many places outside of Instagram. That's where I post my movie reviews. My name on there is Phil Like Movies. Not likes movies, but Phil Like Movies.
I got it on the screen.
Look for the picture. Yeah, look for the picture of me and Lewis Black and my wife. So,
Lewis Black, star of Tokyo Drift. No, wrong guy. So you can find me, guys, everywhere you find things at Rewatch Ryan. I'm going to be in the background begging Phil to come back on another episode. Brando and I will be back with Hot Takes and Sausage sometime later this week, I think. And I don't know if I'm going to podcast about The Little Mermaid. We'll see, but I'm definitely going to see it. So there's that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.